Colleagues, as part of our debate on efforts to combat transnational organized crime and terrorism, I want to highlight the need for concerted, ongoing, and coordinated efforts to address the financial aspects of these illegal activities. Most criminal organizations go to great length to disguise the illegal origins of their financial assets, and in doing so are often able to avoid criminal prosecution. Moreover, a number of terrorist groups try to move money through the international financial system in a way that avoids detection of their activities and purposes. There are also linkages between money laundering and corruption, which can have a corrosive effect on public institutions and the legitimate economy, thus impeding democratic development and economic growth. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which emphasizes the need to prevent and detect money laundering, has highlighted the extent of the problem. In particular, the UN estimates that each year global money laundering totals between $800 billion and $2 trillion. Addressing the challenges of money laundering and terrorist financing has become more difficult as financial systems become more globalized. Over the years, steps have been taken at the international level to address money laundering and terrorist financing efforts, on which we must continue to build. The UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, the UN Convention Against Corruption, the International Convention for the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism, and a number of resolutions of the UN Security Council are among these international efforts. The Group of 20, or G20, has also demonstrated a commitment to strengthen the global response to money laundering and terrorist financing, including through continued support for the standard-setting work of the Financial Task Force, of which Canada is a member. Canada is also a member of the Asia-Pacific Group on Money Laundering. In keeping with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations, in 2000, Canada established a National Financial Intelligence Unit, the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada, which is commonly known as FINTRAC. FINTRAC's mandate is to facilitate the detection, prevention, and deterrence of money laundering, terrorist activity financing, and other threats to the security of Canada. To fulfill that mandate, FINTRAC is empowered to report suspicious financial activity to law enforcement and security authorities. As well, it receives reports from a range of financial entities, including banks, securities dealers, and insurance companies. I would also note that FINTRAC's protection of the information it collects is subject of a biennial review by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. Over time, Canada has strengthened its legislative regime through amendments to the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act, most recently in 2014. Last year, the Financial Action Task Force recognized that Canada had made significant progress in addressing the issues raised in its 2008 Mutual Evaluation Report of Canada and removed Canada from its regular follow-up process. I want to conclude by underlining the important role that parliamentarians can play in raising awareness and providing oversight of national anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing regimes. Here, I would like to highlight the work done by our Senate Committee on Banking, Trade, and Commerce. In 2013, the committee finished its statutory 5-year review of Canada's proceeds of crime, money laundering, and terrorist financing. The committee considered the written submissions and testimony of more than 40 witnesses before making 18 recommendations to the Government of Canada. I was very encouraged to see the draft resolution submitted by our colleagues from the Australian delegation regarding terrorism and transnational organized crime. Among other things, that resolution calls on states that have not yet done so to ratify the relevant international conventions, including the two I mentioned earlier, the UN Conventions Against Corruption, and transnational organized crime. Australia's draft resolution also addresses the need for all states to adopt the effective mechanisms for the seizure, restraint, and confiscation of the proceeds of crime. I look forward to working with all of you to address these important issues during our APPF meetings. Thank you.